afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my session on REST API documentation. So in today's session, I'll introduce you to REST APIs and help you get started with reference documentation. I'll also be touching upon JSON, and finally we'll see how to fill in a sample template for reference documentation. Just to keep the expectations straight, this is a very introductory session, so I'll just be covering the basics of all these topics. And one humble request is that if you have any questions, I would appreciate if you park them towards the end of the session so that I can cover these topics completely. So with this, let's see what are REST APIs. To begin with, REST stands for Representational State Transfer and API stands for Application Programming Interface. Now let's assume that you have an app such as Twitter on your smartphones or desktops, and you want to see the recent tweets of your friends. So what you do is you log on to the app and send a request to the server. The server authenticates your credentials and your requests and gives you back the response, which are nothing but the tweets that you're looking for. So there is an exchange of information between the client device and the server, and this information exchange happens through a REST API. So in a nutshell, we can say that a REST API enables two systems to communicate with each other. Now REST APIs are gaining popularity with developers. Developers are registering their REST APIs and making them public so that other developers can reuse them. When it comes to reusability, they need to be supported with good documentation. And now it's known fact that developers do not enjoy documentation as much as we do as technical writers. So the draft or the documentation that they might produce might not be completely useful. So in this case, here is an opportunity for us as technical writers to leverage our skills and do documentation from scratch. And when we do documentation from scratch, we'll be producing quality documentation, and the developers will have to attend to less support calls. Now when we say we want to do documentation from scratch, we need to follow 4 standard steps. First, we need to familiarize with the terminology of REST APIs, then an anatomy is the typical structure of a REST API. Then we need to know how to read request and the response data, which is typically in JSON. And finally, we should know actually what goes into the reference documentation. So let's see these steps one by one. So the first, terminology. The first term here is HTTP method. A REST API follows the CRUD methodology. That is, it enables you to create, retrieve, update and delete records. And each of these actions are mapped to a corresponding HTTP method. That is, create is mapped to post, retrieve is mapped to put, and update is retrieve is mapped to get, update is mapped to put, and delete is mapped to delete. So in a nutshell, we can say that a REST API enables us to maintain the records on the server. Base URL. Now base URL is also called as the server URL. It is the URL of the server that receives our request and sends us the response. So in case of Twitter, this URL can be something like http api.twitter.com. Resources. Resources are the real-world domain objects on which the REST API acts upon. Now, we said that REST API enables us to create records. So, the records are of these resources. For example, let's take an example of, say, a Flickr app. As registered users, you log on to the app and upload some photos. And maybe your friends comment on them. So, the resource under consideration in this case are users, photos, and comments. And then you have REST APIs for each of the actions, like you can register new users, or you can add new photos, or you can update your existing comments. Query parameters. Query parameters help you to filter your response data. Okay. Like I might not be interested in retrieving the entire information that is available on the server. So in this case, I can specify certain conditions and retrieve only that information based on these conditions. So the conditions you can specify using query parameters. Now all these elements put together together, that is the HTTP method, base URL, resources, query parameters, all put together forms the request URL. So we can say that a request URL is enough information that you need to send to the server in order to receive the response that we are looking for. So next term is header. Now header contains 3 standard elements. 2 elements define the format of the request data and the response data, and there is one more element, that is the bearer, which is also called as an access token. Now to keep it simple, we can say that access token is a unique random number that the server sends us when it authenticates our credentials. So there is a lot of actually complexity involved in access tokens, and this typically needs to be documented in the security or authorization documentation. And primarily here we are focusing only on reference documentation. So after the header we have the request body. Now we said that a request URL is just enough information that I send to the server. But if I want to send certain additional information, then I can send it on through a request body. A request body can either be in a data format or a media format. Data format can be in JSON format or XML, and media can be in scenarios where you want to upload a video file or an image or an audio file. Followed by the request, you have the response body, and again response body contains the response data I receive from the server, and again it can be either in JSON, XML or media format. And finally we have the response code. So what I do is I submit my request URL, the server processes my request, and it does the authentication process and sends me back the response code. Now the response code are standard HTTP codes, like they indicate either the success or failure of the REST API. But for example, the 200 code might indicate a success, whereas 400 might indicate failure. And developers can use their customized codes as well. So all these elements that we saw so far need to be documented in reference documentation. So now let's see how these elements put together look like. We can take an example again of a Twitter app, and as a user, registered user of Flickr, I'm trying to retrieve information about photos. So I'm trying to retrieve information of photos that are uploaded on the server. So mapping it to the CRUD methodology, I'm trying to retrieve information. So R maps to get, that is the get method. The HTTP method that this REST API uses is get. Now the server URL or base URL could be something like flickr.api.com, and resources here could be users and photo. So if you see there is an additional variable, that is a user ID in the resource representation. So it indicates that I am interested in retrieving photos that are uploaded by a particular user. So that is why I add that additional variable in this resource representation. Then I'm interested only in retrieving photos that are uploaded on a particular date. So I specify the query parameter. So the date uploaded becomes my query parameter. Now this entire string becomes my request URL. After that I have the header. Now header here contains 2 elements, that is the bearer, that is the access token that we already defined, and it contains one more element called as the accept. Now accept defines the format of the response. We said that there was one additional element that defines the format of the request also. But here we don't have in this example, because the information that we have provided in this request URL is just enough to receive the response. So we do not have to send any additional information, and that is why we don't have a request body here. So we don't have a request, the element that defines the request body. And finally, when I submit this API, I'll get the response, something like the photos, the information about the photos that are uploaded on that particular date. It gives me the photo ID, the location where it is uploaded, and its dimension. And this response is typically in JSON format. So now that we are familiar with the terminology and the typical structure of a REST API, Let's see what is JSON all about. Now JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It is a type of structured data format similar to XML. However, it is more popular than XML because it has simpler notations, it has lesser text, and it does not use any markups. Further, JSON supports two data types, that is the collective data types and the individual data types. The collective data types are further classified as arrays and object. Now arrays are list of comma separated values, and an array is embedded in square brackets, where an object is a list of comma separated key value pairs where the key and value is separated by a colon, and an object is embedded in curly braces. And here we say that array is a list of values and object is a key value pair. So the values here become the individual data types. So values can be either numbers, string, boolean or null. Numbers can be further positive, negative, decimals or integers. String can be any text that is enclosed in double quotes, and boolean can be like values which are of true or false type. And null can be used to represent missing values. So a JSON response or request is a single object in itself, and it can contain other objects and arrays in it. So JSON supports nesting. So let's take an example. Now this is a simple JSON response that represents students' data. Now here this response gives me information about the student, such as the name of the student, the major subject that the student has opted for, the marks that the student has scored, and finally the result. So each of these is again of different data types, like name is enclosed in, as a string value, major again is a string value, numbers is marks is a number value, and result is a boolean value. Now if you see, the response is enclosed in a curly braces. So this becomes my top level object. Okay. Now after this I have a start square bracket and an end bracket. Now this represents an array. So I have an array embedded into an object. Now we defined array as a list of values, and here the list of values are nothing but objects in themselves. Like that is why we have objects embedded into an array. So this is how JSON supports nesting, and this typical example has 3 levels of nesting, and depending upon the complexity there can be many more levels. So if we compare the same response with XML, you see that XML response is wordy as compared to JSON. So JSON has very simpler notations, whereas XML has all these tags, like the start tag and end tag for each element. So it is pretty evident why developers prefer JSON over XML. Now that we are familiar with what are REST APIs, what is the terminology that we need to understand, and we are fairly familiar with the structure of a REST API, let's take a sample example of how to document the REST API now. We can take again an example of Flickr, and this particular REST API adds a comment to a photo. Okay. Now the developer has given you all the information that you require for about all the elements that we discussed so far. For example, the developer has explained that this particular REST API uses the HTTP post method. Then the developer has also given me sample codes for the header, the request body, and the response. And also has given me information about the messages or the response codes. So all this information is available to me now, and let's see how do I include it into a sample template. So we could get started with a simple any authoring tool that supports. So we could get started with any tool that supports tables, like that allows me to add tables. So the first and the foremost element here that I add is the purpose. So the purpose is like it describes the usage of the REST API. So I say this REST API adds a comment to a photo as a currently authenticated user. So that is why here the main important information is that not any user can add a comment. The user has to be registered to Flickr and his credentials need to be authenticated. Next, we document the HTTP method. Now again mapping it to the CRUD methodology, now we are adding a comment, that is we are creating a record. So this REST API uses the HTTP post method. Then we talk about the URL. Now this is the server URL and the resources. The resources here are the users, photos and comments. So we briefly explain about all these resources. Like for example, for photos and comments, we say that photos and comments are identified by unique IDs. Like whatever information is available, we could explain them here in this section. Then we have the query parameters. Now this is a post method. So we are trying to add a record. We are not retrieving any kind of information. So there are no query parameters in the, if you see the URL, there are no query parameters here. So we could remove, exclude this section from the documentation. However, had it been like the request that we saw before of retrieving information about the photos, there we had specified the date as the query parameter. In that case, we need to document the information about the parameters. So like in the table, we can have the columns like the parameter name, the data type, whether it's a mandatory or a required or a mandatory or optional parameter, its description and constraints. Now constraints are very important here because here is where we need to probe the developers to give us more information. So here the date, for example, in the date parameter, I need to specify what is the format of the date. So in which the request, how it has to be specified in the request URL. So all the additional information can be documented in the constraints column. Then we come to the header section. Now here we could actually include the sample code. Wherever it is available, we could include the sample code. So here I document the header elements. Now as I said, bearer is the access token, and then we could point it to the authorization documentation because here this is typically reference documentation. Content type, it is the format in which the format of the request data. So it is either JSON, or this particular REST API supports either JSON or XML, and the default is JSON. And accept indicates the format of the response data, and again it is either JSON or XML. Then we come to the request documentation. So we could see that here the sample code of the request body is in form of JSON. Okay, so there is a curly brace and a comment object and an object embedded within an object. Okay, so we document all these elements here. So again, in a tabular form, we'll have these columns. That is the element ID, the data type, description, required or optional, and the constraints. Now, if you see that photo ID and comment text, they have certain constraints. Like photo ID, it cannot contain special characters other than an underscore, and comment text cannot be blank. So all these additional information needs to go here, and that becomes very important. Otherwise, we'll not know what needs to be actually entered into the response body. And then we have the response documentation. Again, we include a sample response first, and then the response elements. And then again, it's a JSON object and an object embedded into an object, and we document the elements. Like we have the ID, author name, date created, comment text, and finally the status indicator. So we provide the information about the element ID, the data type, description, and again the constraints. So the only difference between the request documentation and the response documentation is that the request has an additional column of whether it is a required element or an optional element. Whereas in response documentation, we do not have that particular column. And there is one more thing, like if you want to make the request to the response documentation readable, you can use some kind of formatting. For example, here there were only 2 levels, so I've used, like I've distinguished the 2 levels by using a bold element ID and the other elements in italics. Some writers like use indentation, like depending upon the, to indicate the nesting, they use the indentation. So now finally, if you see, there is an element status indicator. Now it says it's a boolean, that means it will return either a true or false value. If it's a true value, that means this REST API has been successful. That is, the comment has been added successfully. Now if it is false, it means that the REST API has failed. And what are the reasons for failure? They are captured as response codes. Now there could be 3 reasons for failure: 400, 401, and 404. Now 400 indicates that it's a blank comment, and we had specified in the request documentation that the comment cannot be blank. And 401 says that the user is not authenticated, or is not an authenticated user. So if in the purpose we had said that a user has to be an authenticated user, so he has to be a Flickr registered Flickr user. And 404 says that the photo is not found. That means the value that you have specified for the photo ID in the request is invalid. So all these response codes have to be captured in the documentation. So going back to the presentation, we saw that the table documentation is very easy. Like, it is very simplistic to get started with. Like, if your organization has still not made decisions about what framework to use and what tools need to be used, and you want to immediately produce some documentation, so you could get started with this table kind of an approach. And so as it does not require any new learning as such. However, it has certain disadvantages in itself. Like, we said that we'll format the request and the response bodies to make them more readable. But if the nesting is too deep, and say like I've used some indentation or something, then the table formatting becomes very clumsy. Then user will have to scroll depending upon the levels. So the formatting becomes an issue. Now also the greatest disadvantage of this is that it has static documentation. It does not produce any interaction. The user is not able to interact with the REST APIs actually. So the way ahead is to explore about interactive documentation, and Swagger is one such tool that allows you to create interactive documentation. It's an open source tool. It actually allows you to try and test your REST APIs. Like, you can actually enter values in the request body and see what kind of responses you get. You can submit your REST API and finally you see what responses you get. Even you can try to insert some invalid data and you will see what response codes, error codes you get. So you can actually check how the REST API works with such kind of interactive tools. So while I was exploring, to be honest, I'm not an expert, and I've just been exploring to get started with. And I found these resources very useful. There are 2 good courses on Udemy by Peter Gruenbaum, and these are especially for the technical writers. So if you want to learn REST API documentation from the scratch, so these are very good courses. They will give you a lot of practice exercises, and these are very useful. And there are lots of YouTube videos on REST APIs, concepts and examples. They will help you understand the REST architecture and how the developers have to follow these guidelines. So there are that will actually make you understand how the REST API actually works. And finally, This is my favorite one, Tom Johnson's blog on I would rather be writing. He has a lot of material on API documentation. And there are a lot of practice exercises, like even there is a tutorial for actually using Swagger. So these are very good resources. So that's it from me, and thank you for listening to me so patiently. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them. Otherwise, I'll get back to you after connecting with the experts and get back to you.
Hi, I am Raghuram. So in the regular API, you can generate the API documentation like the developers embed the help in the code and they generate it. So is that possible in this also?
No, it is not. That is why we need to do it externally.
Okay. So or can we go and edit the code and comment it and generate it?
Those actually were for the Java APIs, I believe, but for REST it does not happen. So that is why we need to do it externally.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, my name is Venkat. I started API documentation way back in 2008. Okay, REST API documentation to be more precise. So like she said, there is no standard way to do it. You cannot embed anything, comment in the code and generate it. But REST API as such works on a framework. And like Swagger, there are quite a few tools around. It will be up to the engineering team to define the framework in that tool, and then that can auto-generate the documentation. But it still requires quite a bit of work. Most of these are open source. You can find a lot of it. Nothing is tried and tested and proven. It's still pretty nascent, you can say, in ways. The overhead is that the engineers, they need to develop the framework in that tool over and above the necessary documentation that they do in terms of designing the specs and actually creating it, writing it in the code. And each one could be, again, REST API is pretty technology agnostic. You can have your actual code in PHP, Python, Java, whatever it is. So there's no common ground there. So the key would be to define a framework.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other questions? Sir.
Suppose we are using Swagger for interactive documentation, then creating the swagger.json file is generally in the developer's scope or the technical writer's scope?
Actually, there is, as I understand, there is a YML file, and if you understand that, maybe initially you can take the help from the developers, but once you understand how to feed in that YML file, you can extract the JSON file and then upload it on the, there are two parts of, like we have a Swagger editor and the UI. So the UI, once you upload it, it will create a package, and that you can upload it on your web server.
Well, this would come under the technical writer's purview finally.
Yeah, actually that is how we should do it. Like initially maybe we can take the help from the developers, probably they can help us with one REST API and we can do the rest.
Okay, thanks.
So this is,
what is REST API?
REST API is like, again, it's a different, it's kind of a architecture, like it's a framework. There are few guidelines and it differs from the normal APIs. Like normal APIs are more like method oriented and these are more like resource oriented. So there are a lot of differences between the two.